In 1966, the Chicago Bears drafted the son of a Pennsylvania coal miner in the 4th round. Doug Buffone would go on to play 15 seasons for the Bears and later be named one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. His allegiance to the Bears never waned, even when he took to the microphone and witnessed some horrendous Bears teams.
The fact is, there's not the fear put into them, because this game is a lot about fear. You either do the job, or you go home and go sell hamburgers at McDonald's.
Doug told it like it is, and that's part of the reason his nephew John has dedicated this show to Doug. And now John Buffone is spreading Buffone-branded beratements just like his uncle.
Being a Chicago Bears fan is like being in a toxic relationship that you can't get out of. I think I'm finally done, and then they come back and they say, well, things are going to be different this time. I've changed. We've got receivers now. We've got the quarterback now. And even though I've heard this song and dance before, I go back every time.
And he's got pep talks too.
I love this team. And I know everyone watching and listening loves this team. So while we may be pessimistic and cynical, every one of us still has hope that the stars will align at some point. And if that ever does happen, you'll be glad you stuck around.
John is telling it like it is here on Buffone 55. And joining John are Alyssa Barbieri, managing editor of USA Today's NFL Wires, including Bears Wire, and also Danny Shimon, lead game and draft analyst for the Barroom Network. Buckle up and bear down. This is Buffone 55, the John Buffone Show.
Hello and welcome to Buffone 55. It's a fast-paced approach at breaking down the Chicago Bears. I'm John Buffone, and in the publishing business, we would call this episode Volume 8, Issue 3, the 8th season of the show and the 3rd installment of the 8th year. The long wait for football and the debut of the number 1 overall pick in the entire 2024 NFL Draft, Caleb Williams, is over, and the result was... it's complicated, but we're going to definitely dive into that later. First, let me introduce my producer and co-host, Alyssa Barbieri, and our game day analyst, Danny Shimon. Guys, I want to congratulate all three of us because we accurately predicted a Bears win. Although, before we even start, go ahead and roll that video from the August 28th show, a.k.a. Volume 8, Issue 1. I'm going to say they come out and they win week 1 against the Titans.
Agreed. No, I think they win, but they got to be careful. We just talked about the interior of that offensive line. Hopefully they are there to have a plan for Jeffrey Simmons. That big guy from Tennessee. He can wreck offensive game plan. So Jeffrey Simmons and they brought in Sweat, the big defensive tackle from Texas as well, the rookie. So that's a big guy there as well. Massive size there too. So I wouldn't take them for granted. But the Bears should come out and win this game. Yes.
Nice job, everybody. Especially you, Danny. You kind of had an idea that the Bears offensive line would have a little bit of a struggle against that interior defensive line with the Titans. It's almost like you had a crystal ball there.
Well, it was a fear of mine because obviously we know the interior offensive line, especially center, with Coleman Shelton, and then right guard with the question mark with Nate Davis, and then we'd be rotating with Bates, all that stuff. There was a question mark going into the game, and Jeffrey Simmons is one of the better defensive linemen in the league. And then as I mentioned there, Kavonte Sweat was a 3rd round pick for them, and he's not the overall pass rusher that a Simmons is, but he's a big active body, and he's a guy that's hard to move, and if those guys that couldn't get their game plan together to have a plan to neutralize those guys, it'll be hard to run on them. And sure enough, the Bears could not move those guys, and they could not run the ball effectively versus that front for Tennessee.
Alyssa, you almost wavered going into week 1, but you said you were sticking with the Bears. You were picking them to win. Aren't you glad you did?
I am, although I would have taken that back in the first half, which, that was rough. I feel like I don't know. I was getting like shades of last year's season opener, but things change. This feels like a different team. So I am glad that I ultimately stuck with them. So, I mean, we went 3-0 this week.
You're right.
Proud
and
of us.
I do believe someone may have predicted a pick six late in the fourth quarter to seal the deal. I'm not sure who that was. I'm gonna have to go back and check the tape to see who actually predicted that. But we'll get to that later because I still got to figure out who actually said that. But hey, Danny, we're gonna bring you back after B55. So go backstage and prepare for your next prediction. Alyssa, please give our audience a quick rundown on how this episode's gonna work.
Absolutely. So the signature part of the show is, of course, our first B55 segment. That's when I ask John 5 questions that he answers within 55 seconds. And he's quite good at it, too. Maybe because he's done this segment for all of the show's 8 seasons in honor of his Uncle Doug, who wore, of course, number 55. And it's also a segment most fans find therapeutic, as well as us on the show, of course. Then after a quick break, we're going to commence with more talk therapy with a segment that we call Buffone's Basement. Danny's going to rejoin us, and the 3 of us are going to celebrate the team's success, talk openly about our anxieties regarding the Bears, and suggest some corrective measures the players and coaching staff should execute.
Well, also, I believe that we're going head-to-head with some sort of debate tonight. We started right at the same time it did. I don't know why anyone would watch that when they could be watching Buffone 55 right here on the Barroom Network, across any platform you may have, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you have. I mean, we're way more entertaining. So, but I believe these, we got to face it. We've been doing these therapy sessions for years now, and sometimes I wonder if it's actually going to pay off.
No. Get that the negativity out of your mind, John. Not yet. We're only in week 1. But finally, our last segment is with Buffone's Basement. We're going to run the Podfather's video essay. Although Gandia was at the game on Sunday, and he will share his personal observations. So, John, are you ready to get to your 5 questions?
I guess so. But I guess since we're talking about this being a therapy session, that would, I suppose, make you the therapist. Should I be lying down on this couch beside me and just expressing my feelings while I just commiserate with you?
John, please promise me that if the Bears don't make the playoffs this year, that you will do the segment of the show while you're lying down on that sofa.
Oh, I don't have to try. It'll just happen. It'll just organically happen. We can do that.
I mean, while a big part of me is looking forward to that, I'm really hoping it doesn't come to that. I mean,
Me too.
I want to make the playoffs this year, but maybe for next year, just we could kick the show off, or we can kick the playoffs off with that. But let's get to it with our first question. So, John, as you said, to open the show, the Bears had a real football game on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Currently, they sit at 1-0. So let's start with the emotional aspect of that game. What was the Buffone household like on Sunday afternoon before, during, and after the Bears' roller coaster victory against Tennessee? Let's put 55 seconds on the clock and go.
Well, let's start with this. I was actually at a wedding in Philadelphia the night before, so I didn't even get home until about 90 minutes before kickoff. So I didn't get to go through my usual pregame routine where I hit the gym, I get a pizza in the oven, I get a dozen of wings in the air fryer. I usually buy some kind of dessert, most likely a cannoli, but I didn't get to do any of that. So I already felt like I was kind of out of sorts. But then the game started, and I felt right at home. You know why? Because the offense was sputtering, the Bears fell behind, and then a couple of defensive and special teams plays got them right back into it, and they pulled out a very ugly win. So it's been almost 8 months since I felt that adrenaline-soaked, rage-filled, angry, loving, confusing feeling. And this is going to sound psychotic, but I actually missed that feeling. There's nothing like an NFL Sunday, and starting with the Bears win makes it even sweeter.
I mean, I don't know if I missed that feeling, especially in the first half when it all felt like it was going to hell. But yeah, I mean, it definitely felt familiar, and it felt like my comfort or discomfort space, I guess. But yeah, it was just, like you said, a roller coaster of emotions just throughout. The first half, it felt eerily similar to last week's season opener, where we have months and months and months of anticipation and optimism and hope, only for it to feel like it just completely came crashing down before the season even got started. I'm like, oh gosh, not again. But then something changed in the second half. It's crazy. I mean, it's not really crazy because as Bears fans, John, how many times have we watched the defense and special teams win games? Oh, sure. So it did feel very familiar. But, last year we saw the Bears find ways to lose. We know they left several wins on the table last year, but in week 1 this year, they found a way to win when they should have lost. So feels like a mark of a good team. So I think once all phases finally start to click that, this could be a really dangerous team.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, a mark of a good team is finding a way to win whenever you are not playing well, and they were not playing well. And this is a game they probably lose last year. So take it for what it is. It's an ugly win, but it's a win. I'd rather win ugly than lose pretty. And so the Bears are 1-0. There are plenty of things to work on. We're not going to put on those rose-colored glasses and be like, oh, this was perfect. This was a perfect performance. But I'd rather grow within a win than have to keep having these learning experiences from losses. And what can we take from this loss? And what are they going to learn from this loss? I'm way past that. So what can we learn within a victory rather than a loss? I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I'm done with the moral victories. I want actual victories, even if they are ugly. I'd rather lose every single game ugly this year than to play well and then find a way to lose at the end, because that's just... We've done that song and dance before, so let's find a new way.
We've paid our dues with that. We're fine.
Absolutely. Okay, so John, let's get to the big topic of the weekend. Caleb Williams' Bears debut in the regular season. The rookie quarterback completed 14 of 29 passes for 93 yards with no touchdowns, but also no turnovers. So despite the victory and the history of number 1 overall picks losing their debut, it's safe to say that Williams was not the driving force behind this win. So, John, what is your take on Caleb's performance? You have 55 seconds.
Well, you see, I actually spoke specifically about this kind of situation last week. If he had a great game, he isn't an automatic Hall of Famer. And if he had a bad game, he isn't an automatic bust. Now, with that being said, he didn't play well. His accuracy was off. He missed some potentially big-time throws, and he made some other mistakes that are common for rookies, like taking a terrible 19-yard loss on a sack that took him out of field goal range. But hey, he didn't turn the ball over. He really should have had a touchdown pass, but Keenan Allen dropped it in the end zone. So a touchdown on his stat line maybe would have made it look a little bit better, but we don't all have to run to our trenches and dig in after week 1 and open up some stupid debate that doesn't need to occur. I think it's safe to say that Caleb is going to have better games and he's going to make some big plays for the Bears this year, but there are going to be some hiccups just like this. So let's just sit back, take it for what it is, and maybe enjoy a win rather than getting too ticked off.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. Caleb played bad. I think he was the first one to tell you that. And, there's nothing to be concerned about. I don't even really see any overreaction, whether it's from fans or from the national media or local media. We saw every rookie quarterback struggle this week pretty much. So historically, that's what's going to happen more often than not, including with some of the greats. And I remember Caleb talking about during Hard Knocks how he doesn't get nervous. But, I mean, it feels like there were a little bit of nerves at play, and that's okay. I mean, because why else is he missing a wide-open Keenan Allen streaking down the sideline for what would have been a touchdown when he's made that play before countless times in the summer? So, there's always going to be rookie growing pains. We just have to sit through them, and hopefully they pay off.
Yeah, maybe he's not nervous, but whatever you want to call it, it can be anxious or too energetic, where you see someone streaking down, so you just put a little bit too much on the ball because you get excited and you see that he's open and you overthrow a receiver. So whatever you want to call it, nerves, anxiety, whatever the heck you want to call it, there's obviously some things you got to process and go through as a rookie, and that's what he's going through right now.
I mean, I will say at least he wasn't sacked 9 times in his first NFL start, unlike Justin Fields.
Well,
and permanently just
that's I'm never going to put that on Justin Fields, but no. That's what the coaching staff did to him that day. Let's not revisit that. That's not important.
Yeah, no. So see there, I mean, there's something I guess encouraging to take out of bad performance, but sure. Let's move on to our third question. So sticking with the offense, the Bears totaled just 148 total yards, which of course ranked dead last in week 1. Plenty of things went wrong, but what stuck out to you the most in their week performance against Tennessee? Aldo, get that clock going.
Well, we already talked about Caleb's accuracy issue, so let's step away from that for a second. But I kind of wish they would have leaned on the run game a little bit more. DeAndre Swift only had 10 carries for 30 yards. It would have been nice to establish a strong run game for Caleb Williams to lean on, but that didn't happen for one reason or another, whether that's an offensive line thing or a Shane Waldron thing. I hope they are able to remedy that a little bit. Also, I know he was a nice story on Hard Knocks, and I don't like to clamor for anyone to lose their job, but the Velus Jones experiment probably needs to end, at least on special teams. He fumbled another return and booted it right to the Titans. I get that he has some special athletic attributes, and Ryan Pohl said he wouldn't take anything less than a 4th rounder for Velus Jones during that last Hard Knocks episode.
but he's really starting to hurt the team. If you want him to just be a running back, that's fine, but you just can't keep trotting him out there to return kicks or punts because you like his potential. This is the NFL, that you can't have that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Velus Jones, just the gift that keeps on giving. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'll take that 5th round draft pick or whatever you want to give, whatever team wanted to give Ryan Poles for Velus Jones. I'll take anything at this point. Let's just get him off the team. But no, I agree with you. I did want to see a little bit more of the run game, but I think my biggest concern coming out of this was the offensive line struggles. Yeah. I mean, we knew that there were going to be some growing pains with the rookie quarterback, but the offensive line play, I think, didn't help Caleb. And I know they went against a really dominant interior there with Jeffrey Simmons and Devontae Sweat, but we're in year 3 of the rebuild, and it feels like the offensive line, should be further along than it is. I mean, I do feel really good about Darnell Wright. He looks like the real deal at right tackle, but center and guard, again, remain really big concerns right now.
And they're going to continue to be question marks because you don't know what they're going to do with Tevin Jenkins. You don't know what the long-term projections are at center either. So this is something that you want to really shore up. You want to take care of the trenches. And right now there are some questions along that offensive line, and you want that to be solid for a rookie quarterback. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and it's not getting any easier this week. But moving on, which we'll get to that later. Yeah. But let's shift to the defense. We talked about the defense's potential last week, and they showed up big time against the Titans, forcing 2 fourth-quarter interceptions, including a pick 6 by Tyreek Stevenson, and they also had a fumble recovery on a strip sack. The Bears also blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown on special teams. So, John, are we seeing a potential powerhouse defense bloom before our very eyes? 55 seconds. Have at it.
Well, like I said last week, it's important for the Bears to have a supporting cast for Caleb Williams to pick up the slack when he struggles. That includes the defense. This looked like, it looked a lot like the 2006 Lovie Smith performances, where you sometimes feel more comfortable when the defense is on the field rather than the offense. They get 2 picks, one from Jalen Johnson, one from Stevenson. Jalen Johnson allowed just 1 catch for, I think, like a negative 2 yards and had the interception, had 2 tackles for losses and a forced incompletion. He's living up to his new contract already. Tyreek Stevenson had the go-ahead pick 6 late in the game. By the way, I did predict the pick 6 late in the 4th quarter last week, but I won't use this time to gloat. I only got 15 seconds left. So how about Darrell Taylor notching 2 sacks after basically just getting to Chicago? He's already looking like an excellent acquisition. I said this could be an opportunistic defense that provides a lot of takeaways, and that's exactly what they were on Sunday. This could be a scary unit. They just need the offense to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, this defense already is tied for the league most in takeaways this season with 3. So I am going to take some time and give you your flowers here. You did call that pick 6, and thank God you did, because who knows what would have happened. It just would have. I mean, obviously the Titans probably would have won, but I mean, just good on you, John. But I mean, yeah, watching the defense, it did feel very much like the Lovie Smith era in 06, which I don't mind because they did go to the Super Bowl that year. But, we heard all offseason about how good this defense was going to be, how they were going to be a top 5 unit. And it definitely looks like they're trending towards that right now. I just got to shore up that run defense. But, there were key returning veterans that were really standing out. Like you mentioned, Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson. Andrew Billings and DeMarcus Walker also had really good games, or Darrell Taylor, a newcomer, who was just feasting opposite Montez Sweat. So, there's a lot of confidence with this unit, and it was really cool to see it on the field in action. I think things are definitely going to get tougher this week against the Texans, who actually have a quarterback. But, I'm excited to see how they match up against a really good Houston offense.
Yeah, this will be a really good barometer because CJ Stroud's not going to be tossing it basically underhand while he's getting sacked and just give an easy pick to, Tyreek Stevenson. He's not going to, force things that aren't there. He's a very cerebral guy. So we'll see how they actually, like you said, this will be a great test to see, is this a really great defense? Can they actually match up against a great offense?
I mean, I wouldn't put it out of the question for CJ Stroud, because when he was at Ohio State, he did that very same thing against Michigan. So, he's capable of it. I'm throwing it out there. Are you going to call your shot this week?
No, I know. Well, as a Michigan fan, I know exactly why you brought that up. That you were waiting for years. So you're just sitting on that. I can't wait to bring that up against CJ Stroud. So who knows? Maybe it will happen. I think he's a pretty good pro. But let's see if the Bears can rattle him a little bit with that defense. So far, so good, at least.
Yeah, so they definitely have the pieces there to do it. So, Okay, last question. And I know it's one of your favorite topics, just like mine. the Bears in prime time.
Gross.
The Bears are currently preparing for Sunday Night Football in Houston against the Texans, a team that many people have pegged as a potential Super Bowl contender. John, you have always made your feelings clear about the Bears playing in prime time. But with Chicago currently sitting at 1-0, sporting a great defense, having the number 1 overall pick at quarterback, are your thoughts about watching the Bears in primetime changing even a little bit? I'm keeping the clock on for this one because I'm afraid you could talk about this for an hour. So 55 seconds and go.
Have my feelings changed on the Bears playing in prime time? Absolutely not. I am so fearful when the Bears are on national TV, and now they have a rookie quarterback that's going to be experiencing some growing pains, and if he underperforms or throws an interception, everyone on Twitter will be talking about how they knew Caleb Williams was going to be a bust, or they're going to talk about how the Bears will never have a competent quarterback. Plus, the Bears were some of the national pundits' sneaky pick this year, so if they go into Houston and get absolutely boat raced, everyone is going to be calling them frauds. Look, no one is more critical of the Chicago Bears than Chicago Bears fans. We are hyper aware of the team's historical and present shortcomings, but after the game, everyone's going to be an expert on the Chicago Bears and say things that Bears fans have been saying for years. So I hope to God they win so I can avoid all the texts and the DMs and the lazy national narratives. All of that to say, I kind of wish this game was at noon. But that'll do it for B55. We got a lot more to come back to talk about. We got Buffone's Basement coming up. We'll be right back after these messages.
The Bears.
Because of the way they play the nickel corner here, and the nickel corner plays 88-85% of the snaps. He's got to be like part linebacker.
The Bears.
When you're in a scouting room, there's going to be differences of opinion.
The Bears.
Well, you're looking at traits. And remember when he tested very, very well.
The Bears.
Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often?
Number one, it's a hard position to evaluate.
Former Bears scouting director Greg Gabriel talks football live every week on the Barroom Network. Also available on demand.
Welcome back to Buffone 55, and Danny Shimon's here with us again. Let me start with our most accurate prognosticator. Danny, can you evaluate the performance of Caleb Williams and how much the play of some of his teammates on offense may have disrupted some of his rhythm throughout the game?
Yeah, not only his teammates, so obviously I'm sure we're talking about the interior of the offensive line, specifically center and right guard, but also for me, guys, it was Shane Waldron. I mean, Shane Waldron let him down, in my opinion. And I'm not going to go out here and bash Shane Waldron and bash Billy Cullen. I'm not here to do that. I'm just saying, like, you know, he threw 29 times and he was in a shotgun a lot. And, you know, the emphasis of this offense coming from the Sean McVay and the Kyle Shanahan system is, you know, under center, play action, you know, suck up the second level of that defense, the linebackers, and then throw, you know, easy completions and get your rookie quarterback in comfortable, get him, you know, get some confidence early on. And that didn't happen. And for whatever reason, you know, obviously we talked about earlier in terms of that front by Tennessee being kind of clogging up that middle. There was no movement there by the offensive line. So anything that Swift was trying to run, he had to bounce into the outside, and then everybody was from defense from Tennessee was just rallying and shutting down the run game. But I didn't see many. And I think I had kind of handful when I went back and looked at the tape, like a handful of like 12 or 13 man, you know, personnel, you know, where you had 2 or 3 tight ends in there and just kind of pounded right at them. You know, so I think, you know, you got to get Caleb under center. And I understand he was comfortable, you know, going back to his high school days, even college, being from the shotgun. But this is a whole different animal here, and trying to run out of the shotgun to me was a bad idea, especially against that front. And I just thought that the play calling and some of the things, and you talked about earlier, the offensive line blocking, some of the drops we saw there as well. He didn't look comfortable. He just looked like he was always kind of looking to see where everything was. You know, some of the receiving, the routes are off base. It looks like, you know, like his timing was off with the receivers as well. So it just looked kind of disheveled. And Alyssa made a great point earlier in terms of flashbacks to last year's opener against Green Bay. I had similar feelings. You know, it was just like the offense looked like there was lost, not well coached, and so it's hopefully. I mean, obviously the great news is they're able to recover, bounce back from that, and win the game. But just those type of things, and I just think a better game plan, get them under center, utilize that run game. Khalil Herbert only had two rushes. It was and 10 carries for Swift. You have I think a good 1-2, maybe in a 1-2-3 punch. Let's utilize that. And if you have a struggling offensive line, a nice way to get him back in rhythm is build that lather up, get him sweaty, get him active, get him going after, being aggressive, going after the defensive lineman. And just that wasn't done, in my opinion. So I think some of the players let him down, and obviously I think the play calling let him down, and also himself. Whether it was nerves, whether it was just the pressure got to him, whatnot. But it was an ugly game offensively. But the one thing is, I have zero doubt that Caleb Williams is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. It was just a one game. They talked about some of that quarterback rating that he had compared to some of the previous players in the past. Like guys like Aikman and Bradshaw and Elway. They had even worse quarterback ratings, and look at their career. So one game doesn't make a career. I've always preached this since the draft. Got to be patient. There's going to be great games. There's going to be bad games, right? So it's going to be up and down until he hits his stride and becomes more comfortable with the league and the speed and all that stuff. So he'll be good. No, I'm not worried about that.
Listen, we talked a little bit in the last segment about the offensive line and how it was a little shaky and how there are some questions there. But now let's elaborate a little bit on that, or dig a little bit deeper on there. How much of that was the Bears underperforming, or how much of that was the Titans' defensive line? Because looking at some of the comments here, I think it was King Book of World said, Sweat 370 pounds, moves like a cruiserweight. How much was it the Titans? How much was this the Bears?
Yeah, I think you have to give credit to the Titans. We knew that defensive line, especially the interior, was going to be really good. I didn't think Devondre Sweat was going to be that good and have that big of an impact as quickly as he did. And Tevin Jenkins is a really solid guard, and he was getting manhandled in this game. So, yes, it could be the talent he's going against. This offense, the entire offense is learning a new scheme with Shane Waldron as well. It could be, I thought we didn't get a starting offensive line until later in the year. I think it's a number of factors, and I don't know if we'll know until maybe after another game to see how they respond. They're going to have another test against this Texans defensive front as well. But Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat, I think, are going to be one of the best interior duos in the NFL. What they did, they just controlled the line of scrimmage throughout the entire game and made things incredibly hard on the interior linemen. So I do want to see how the Bears bounce back, because especially there's a question at right guard in particular, because Matt Eberflus said he was rotating Nate Davis and Brian Bates, but Bates outsnapped Davis 38-18. So it kind of feels like maybe we get Bates at right guard next week. And how long is this rotation going to go on? You want to have a starting offensive line in place. You got to help Caleb out as much as possible. So, I guess we'll see. I do think that going up again, I think that's one of the better defensive lines and interior duos that they're going to see all season. But it didn't look good. So hopefully it's only up from here.
Let's hope so, because you want to have a cohesive unit on the offensive line. You want it to be healthy and you want it to be effective. And so right now you're hoping that you can get some. One or the other would be okay, I guess, at this point. But you want to see them gel a little bit. Danny, I do want to talk about the wide receivers. What was your take on the performance of the wide receivers? Did they do enough to get Caleb to where he wanted to be in week one? We saw the Keenan Allen drop in the end zone, but as a whole, how did you look over that receiving core? And is it something that Bears fans should be concerned about, or is it something that says it's just all going to take some time?
No, it's all going to take some time, John. But the couple of things I did come away with is, one was Keenan Allen's hurt. I don't think he's 100%. I think we saw it in midway through that game where he kind of pulled up on a deep ball and in the end zone, kind of limped off the field. Even at that throw where Caleb kind of overthrew him, I just think that Caleb, even though he had a couple yards on the defender, he just wasn't running at full speed that we've seen Keenan Allen play at. And the other thing is, DJ Moore's still going to be your number one receiver on this team. So he was a guy that I wish they had made a more cognizant effort to get the ball to him. Now I know L'Jarius Sneed, a Pro Bowl corner from the Chiefs, was covering him pretty much the entire game, shadowing him across the field. So, but DJ Moore is your top guy, and then obviously the Roman Dunze injury is something we'll discuss later. But him not being 100%. We are, exactly when he got hurt in the game. That also had contributed to some of his ineffectiveness, if you will. But and then Tyler Scott being inactive, to me, was a bit of a surprise early on. I think I'm not sure the logic there. I'm not sure if in the post game if anybody asked Eberflus what the logic was behind there. So obviously with Ndunze hurt, I think we'll see Scott this week. But that was a little element of speed there. Maybe somebody that can take the top off of defense that wasn't there primarily with Scott being benched.
I wanted to open this up to both of you because we talked a little bit about the last segment, but I'm going to start with Alyssa and then ask Danny to jump in. What would you do with Velus Jones at this point? At this point, do you cut him? Do you just keep him on because right now you're looking at your running back room and you just want to leave him there because he is big, strong, and fast. But do you just really limit what he does, or it seems like Ryan Poles really likes this guy. So what do you do with Velus Jones?
Yeah, I mean, what I would do compared to what Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus would do, I mean, they may be different, but I mean, you did have an opportunity to trade and get draft capital for Velus Jones just a few weeks ago. And like looking back at that, it's rough, especially when you look, I mean, he was on punt returns first. He had a couple of costly fumbles. He moved into kickoffs. He seemed to really find a groove. First kickoff, he fumbles. Now it's just like, okay, what do we do? And like Danny mentioned, I think the reason Tyler Scott was inactive was so that Velus Jones could be active for this game. So I would not be shocked if Velus is inactive week 2 against the Texans. And I mean, obviously depending on how, Rome Odunze, but if Rome was healthy and he was active, I think that Velus would be on the bench this week because you just can't afford that. I mean, at least it looks like the Bears found a solid kickoff returner in DeAndre Carter as well, because I mean, his lone kickoff return went 66 yards and he looks like he is a true weapon for them. So at this point, I would get rid of Velus Jones. I mean, it sucks that you could have gotten something for him. And I feel like it'd be difficult to do that now, but I don't know, maybe you snag, if you're lucky, a 6th round pick, maybe a 7th just to get something for him in return. But I think that they're going to retain him on the roster though. I mean, for whatever reason, Ryan Poles he likes him. I mean, he can bring some value to the running back room, but at the same time, I think you just got to cut the cord eventually.
Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't cut him. I mean, Alyssa, I know you're referring to that episode in Hard Knocks where I believe they were offered a 4th round pick for him, and Ryan Poles didn't want to pull a trigger. And I would, if that's true, I would have pulled a trigger on a 4th round pick for Velus Jones. But I do not want him on special teams. I do not want him returning punts. I do not want him returning kickoffs. So DeAndre Carter is the punt returner / kickoff returner back there along with Khalil Herbert. He's done there. But in terms of being a running back, I think he's actually shown some effectiveness, and surprisingly so. I mean, he's got some good vision, contact balance, and power, be able to bounce off of would-be tacklers, and he's got that home run hitting speed. So if they mentioned that in that Hard Knocks episode that he could be a gadget player, a guy that could bring some element that they don't have currently on offense. Well, utilize him in that manner, and don't put him back there on special teams. Don't put him as a kick returner or a punt returner, and utilize him. But like you said, if he's going to be going in there as a receiver this week, that's another wasted opportunity. He's a better running back than receiver, surprisingly, and I think that's where you'd use him. But now once Roschon Johnson is healthy, now you have an actual bruiser guy that can run between the tackles as well. What happens to Velus Jones? That's going to be the question there once Johnson's back and ready to play, because I think the combination of Swift and obviously Khalil Herbert and Johnson would be probably a better trio than you would plug in a Velus Jones there.
Yeah, for me, I don't know if they actually got offered a 4th round pick. I think Poles said he wouldn't take anything less than a 4th round pick. So I don't know. I probably would have traded him. I think what they were hoping that Velus Jones turned into was something of a Cordero Patterson, who was drafted very highly as a wide receiver out of Tennessee, I believe. Doesn't work out as a wide receiver, but had elite athletic skills, turned into a great kick returner and punt returner, got transitioned over to a running back and carved out a really good career for himself. We saw it in Chicago, where he was one of those guys where it was almost Hester-like, where when he got the ball on a kickoff, it was like, oh man, every time he could potentially take this to the house. But the problem with Velus Jones is he can't catch the football, which is kind of an important part of returning it. So I understand the physical attributes, the athletic attributes. Seems like people seem to just be drawn to him. He's a good locker room guy, it looks like. But you gotta, if you're gonna keep him on the roster, you gotta figure out
how are you going to use him? What are you going to is this going to be a gadget end around guy, or is he just going to be a running back? Because like Danny said, yeah, he does have that home run ability, but you also don't want him to be a liability. So there's a little bit of a balance you have to strike there with Velus Jones of how much do you want to use this guy when you know that he has the potential to have a really costly error. And that kickoff muff that he kicked over to Tennessee could have been a lot worse as far as the outcome of the game. So,
because prior to that pick six, they were down by a point. And that point could have been that field goal that they got off that muff punt or kickoff.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're a team that is expecting to make a playoff run, you're not going to put a guy out there that you think might just have potential, and let's hope he doesn't fumble the ball. You need somebody that's going to hold on to the ball because every possession is going to be critical, because it looks like your defense is going to have to be your strong suit for a little bit until the offense catches up. And the last thing you want to do is keep turning the ball over and giving the other team good field position when you're trying to lean on your defense. So just you gotta think of how you're gonna keep possession and play it safe and not turn the ball over too much. So we'll see how they go, because they're, like I said, the athletic ability is there, but you just never know when that error is going to occur. Danny, I want to ask you this. You talked a little bit about Shane Waldron. What did we learn about him in week one, about what he's trying to do or what the Bears might want to do? Did he keep the reins on Caleb? Did he play it conservative? What do you think that we learned just from the new offensive coordinator from 1 week?
No, I don't think he played it conservative. I think I would actually see him to play a little bit more conservative, if you will, and rely a little bit more on that run game and do a little more, Caleb under center and some more play action. I think what I learned from him is he was trying to get Caleb comfortable and running him in the shotgun a lot. And I think that's because, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, he's more comfortable throughout his career. Caleb, that is, from high school to college, he's been in the shotgun, but he's been now here in this system since the spring after the draft. And, there's no excuse for him not to be able to go underneath center and be able to take a snap from underneath center. So I think that right there is the key to the offense, where you can, even if you're not going to hand the ball off, that play action, the threat of a play action, fake sucks up that second level of defense. Now you can give Caleb some easy throws, lob it over that second level defender, drop it into, either, a tight end or something like that. And speaking of tight end, that's the other thing I was surprised is what happened to Cole Kmet? What happened to Gerald Everett? I mean, those guys were gone. It was only Rome and Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen got 11 targets. I forgot how many targets that DJ Moore got, but it looked like the tight end was totally ignored there. So that's another thing is that cannot be ignored, right? That is a big element. Talk about a safety blanket for the quarterback. That's usually the tight end position. And, we expected a lot from Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, and those guys were just missing that first game. So again, those are a lot of things that kind of, head scratchers, like, what happened here with, why was this game called this way? Was it just predicated off of what they saw on film or what they expected? Remember, Denard Wilson, the coordinator for the Titans, was a first-time coordinator, so they hadn't really seen him call a game on film. Now, maybe he caught him off guard with some of the formation, some of the things he was doing. But that just Cole Kmet, Joe Everett, those guys got to get back and incorporate into the offense. And for me, I want to see Caleb under center and do more play action stuff.
We'll see as the season progresses how that play calling will progress, what evolves from the personnel, what evolves from the coaching staff. 1 week does not tell an entire season worth, so we'll see what happens in week 2. Hey, Alyssa, over at Bears Wire, you wrote about Rome Odunze and his knee injury. Looks like there could be some good news. Tell us what you reported and what else Bears fans should know moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but one of the biggest surprises to come out of this game was Matt Eberflus just casually dropping a bomb that Rome Odunze was having an MRI on his knee on Monday, and everyone was just kind of like, what? But Odunze appeared to be rolled up late in the fourth quarter while blocking for, who else? Velus Jones, the gift that keeps on giving, on his screen. And while Odunze returned for the next play, he did exit right after, and he looked to be limping. So it looks like that's when that happened. But the Bears did get good news when the MRI showed that Odunze has a grade 1 MCL sprain, which does feel like the best case scenario, all things considered. He's considered week to week, where some are saying he could miss some time, some say he might not miss any, and it's more of like a pain management thing. In fact, Mark Silverman from ESPN Chicago's Waddle and Sylvie said that he's heard that the Bears aren't necessarily ruling Odunze out for Sunday night, which I found interesting. Although his best guess, as well as mine, is that they're not going to rush Odunze back, and I think he sits out Sunday night. against the Texans. And I think it's notable news considering Keenan Allen appeared to re-aggravate his heel injury late in Sunday's game. DJ Moore appeared on 670 The Score's Mully and Haw on Monday, where he said that he thinks that Allen is, quote, fine, and said Allen is, quote, just an old man, and he thinks that he's good. So we'll see how that pans out. It's not confirmation that Allen will play Sunday night, but it is encouraging, especially considering the lack of depth behind Chicago's receiving trio, which includes Tyler Scott, DeAndre Carter, and Bayless Jones. I wouldn't be surprised to see Colin Johnson maybe elevated from the practice squad, but that's definitely going to be a situation to monitor throughout the week.
Yeah, we'll see. And how it looks like they may have avoided catastrophe, but we'll see how it plays out for Sunday night in Houston. Hey, Danny, I got to give you another attaboy because on last week's show, you talked pretty positively about Darrell Taylor, who was acquired from the Seahawks for, I think, a 6th-round pick, and he ended up having a really good game. Can you break down what he did so well to get multiple sacks?
Yeah, Taylor did what I said he does. He's a pass rusher. This guy just go after the quarterback. He's not a complete defensive end where he's going to stop the run and be a down and down out player, but he's electric in terms of his his first step get off. He's got the quick twitch ability. He's able to bend that edge and get around the offensive lineman. And he was matched up predominantly versus J.C. Latham, the first round pick, the rookie. And then that was a matchup I thought that the Bears would try and kind of flip, maybe get Montez Sweat on Latham, but instead it was Taylor who took advantage of the rookie there. A couple of times he beat him, and obviously that big strip sack there for a second sack. So I think he's just a guy. Going through the draft process, John, I was looking at the draft class, there wasn't a perfect defensive end that you kind of go and draft. All right, this is a perfect complement to Montez Sweat. What I was looking for just a situational pass rusher, a guy that can just put his ears back and go after the quarterback. And that's one of the reasons why I liked Austin Booker as that 5th-round pick. But Taylor is tailor-made for this position. He's a guy that his biggest thing is production wasn't an issue with Seattle. It was just staying healthy, right? Staying healthy, staying on the field, be able to play 16, 17 game seasons. And then obviously this year there's a new defensive coordinator, new defensive plan there, and then he became expendable, and that's how the Bears lucked into him. But yeah, I think this is a guy, if he uses him the right way, watch his snaps, make sure he doesn't get pounded on. I think he's a guy that's going to be very effective rushing opposite of Montez Sweat, and we saw some of that on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's a 6th-round pick that has been put to good use. Good job, Brian Poles. So some of you might be wondering where Aldo Gandia's video essay is. And the truth is that I knocked him down near the end of the show because I'm jealous that he got to go to the game on Sunday and I didn't. Sorry about that, Aldo. But let's get it out of the way before we play Buy, Sell, or...
This is moronic. Over 61,000 fans descending upon Soldier Field to witness the debut of Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams is going to be Rookie of the Year this year.
Really? What?
Yeah, he's going to break the Bears record, 4,000 yards. High expectations for him. High expectations.
And we've been waiting for it our whole lives.
His rookie year, he's going to really be more...
All right, we got to cut that short because we had some technical issues, but a wonderful freeze frame that we ended up on there. So obviously we could tell in the early part of that video, the Bears fans were incredibly excited for Caleb Williams' debut. And while they didn't get maybe all the stats they thought they were going to get, they did get to experience a win in week 1. So coming off of that, let's play a little bit more. What is it? Buy, sell, or?
This is moronic.
Listen, Vegas yesterday posted their odds for next Sunday night's game. Bears Texans at NRG Stadium. Now, the Texans had 213 total rushing yards, while the Bears had 148 total yards. The Texans beat their division rival, Indianapolis, 29-27, with C.J. Stroud tossing 2 touchdown passes. And their offense won the time of possession game by a gap of basically 2-1. The Texans had the ball for 40 minutes to the Colts 20. Now, I don't think any of us here are gamblers. Anyway, I think it's always fun to pretend that we're laying some money on the game. So do you buy, sell, or think this is moronic that the line.
This is moronic.
And the line is set at 6.5, and that means the Texans would have to win by 7 points to cover. Danny, you've had some luck with predictions. We'll start with you. What do you think about this spread?
Well, like I said, I think Texans are coming in, home opener. Like you said, favorite of yours. It's prime time game. I just think, I'm not saying the Bears are going to be that bad of a football team. I just think at this point, I think, Houston with what they're coming in with, the firepower and all that's on offense, I think they are going to be able to cover that 6.5 point spread. If it was a Sunday afternoon game, noon, whether it's in Houston or on the lakefront, I think the Bears have a chance to go ahead and pull that off. But that Sunday night, that prime time, I'm with you, John. Something happens to our Chicago Bears and they just don't perform well.
Alyssa, what do you think about the spread?
Yeah, no, I'm buying that the Texans will cover. I mean, this is a game that, we all had Chicago losing even before the offensive concerns that surfaced in week 1. And I assumed it would probably be about a touchdown win for Houston. So now after watching what the Titans defense did to Caleb Williams and the offense, this game scares me a little bit, especially with it being in prime time. It makes it all the worse. I mean, in traditional Bears fashion, I think my greatest confidence is in the defense. So if there's going to be any hope in them, even having, a chance in this game and potentially covering, it's going to be that defense rising to the occasion against a really good Houston offense. So, I mean, it's going to be a big test because, the Texans actually have a good quarterback in CJ Stroud, who has weapons of his own in Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. I'm really concerned about this Texans rushing attack with Joe Mixon. He put up 159 yards last week against Indianapolis. And Chicago just allowed nearly 100 to Tony Pollard. So that's something they're definitely going to need to shore up. But I mean, I just have a feeling that unfortunately things are going to get worse before they get better for the offense this week. I can see Caleb making some improvements, but I think the offensive line still remains a big concern. And it's hard to pick the Bears going in to Houston on Sunday Night Football in prime time and pulling off the upset, yet alone, I think, covering that 6.5 spread. So yeah, I'm going to take Houston at 6.5.
Listen, I'm going to say this is moronic because I don't like that we put this in the agenda to talk about, and then I got to figure out why the Bears are not going to cover the 6.5 point spread because I don't think they cover either. But I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to bring up why they're going to lose. I don't want to bring up why they're going to lose by more than a touchdown because then that just makes me feel bad. That puts me in a bad mood, and that's not why I do this show. It's supposed to be therapeutic, and now we're talking about why they're not going to cover a 6.5 point spread. So whoever made this rundown. And I'm staring at you right here through my webcam. This is moronic. But
This is moronic.
We're going to give it one more shot. Let's go back to Aldo Gandia's video talking about the opening day at Soldier Field.
Over 61,000 fans descending upon Soldier Field to witness the debut of Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams is going to be Rookie of the Year this year.
Really? What?
Yeah, he's going to break the Bears record, 4,000 yards. High expectations for him. High expectations.
And we've been waiting for it our whole lives.
His rookie year, he's going to really be more dynamic as people really think he is.
Playoff berth. That's the goal.
Inside the stadium, number 18 jerseys were shoulder to shoulder with the most iconic number in Bears history, number 34. Player introductions were more raucous than ever before, especially for the new quarterback. And when Chicago's favorite tenor, Jim Cornelison, finished the national anthem, the chills at Soldier Field were contagious.
Some pressure, Williams out of the pocket.
But then, the game started.
Looking downfield, floats it for more. Four-man rush on 3rd and short. Williams slinging it, looking for Keenan Allen. And overthrew it. Williams under pressure. That is a big man chasing him. And Williams unable to get away. He's out there blocking for another good Tony Pollard run. And Pollard is gone. Titans strike first. Bayless Jones. Oh, this has been a problem for him in his career. It is Titans ball. Pressure coming. Levis throws it. What a catch! 3-score lead in the first half for Tennessee.
At halftime, a form of PTSD set in. I could not help but think about other disappointing opening day games for the Bears that required medication.
Love, look at the throw.
Just last year, the Packers trounced the Bears 38-20 at Soldier Field.
Touchdown!
What about 2021? The Rams beating up on the Bears 34-14 at SoFi.
And Dalton on the fourth down, and finally.
2003, the 49ers annihilated the Bears 49-7 at Candlestick Park.
He could go all the way.
Maybe the most heart-wrenching opener was in 1980, and the game was tied and in sudden death.
It's blocked. Taken by Marco. Chest to Marco. Chest to Marco. Chest to Marco. Takes it in.
Making things worse is that years later, the kicker, Chester Marco, admitted that he was under the influence of cocaine, which he had taken at halftime. What a downer for Bears fans. When halftime started this past Sunday, I wondered if I needed some type of drug to deal with the chronic fatigue syndrome I suffer from because of the Bears' chronic opening day blues.
Four-man rush. Williams gets brought down by an excellent block.
But then, the Bears started clawing their way back into the game. Special teams and defense leading the way.
Down he goes. Jervon Dexter closes the drive.
Down by a point in the fourth quarter, with the fans on their feet and waving their commemorative Mongo McMichael towels, the Bears defense came up with a 1985 type turnover.
Levis gets wrapped up, flings it ahead, it's picked off. Tyreek Stevenson will give the Bears the lead on another defensive play.
Caleb Williams contributed too by tossing this pass for a 2-point conversion. The Bears had found a way to score 24 unanswered points. It was truly what the doctor ordered.
Jalen Johnson seals the deal, and the defense wins the day for Chicago. W's automatic defense playing well.
While Caleb's debut wasn't the miracle drug we had all hoped for, there was reason to believe in number 18.
Just so happy to be a Chicago Bear. I'm so happy to be a part of this team. And to be the quarterback captain, be able to help lead these guys to victory. Like I said, we're going to get a lot better over time, myself included, this week coming up.
My thanks to Mr. Shorty of Bears Country Production for the ticket and Foster Covers for the great company at the game. Now, of all the games that I've attended in my lifetime, this one might be the most special because this time it felt like the Bears were making a promise to us fans. A promise that the bad days are over and great days are ahead. For Buffone 55, I'm Aldo Gandia.
Okay, so the video is a lot more positive than the questions that were put in front of us, so I appreciate that. Great work, as always, by Aldo Gandia. Just unbelievable what he can throw together in under a day. So appreciate him and contributing to this, not just behind the scenes, but the stuff that goes on there. So, guys, before we get out of here, I want to present you this question, and I'll start with Danny, and then we'll move to Alyssa. Obviously, we think that the Bears are going to struggle against the Texans on Sunday, but what would have to happen, or what would constitute you being okay or saying that was a step in the right direction? Results be darned. What would you like to see on Sunday, Danny?
A competitive game. I mean, the Texans are a playoff team from last year, and they're a team that come in, made a lot of additions, a lot of people picking them to go back to the playoffs this year as well, if not win that division. And you came off of a big road division win last week against the Colts, but the one, and I know that I said the Texans are going to probably cover. But the one good news is here, and watching them this past week, their front or their defense is pretty similar to the Bears, meaning that they use their fast, athletic 4 guys, 4 down linemen to try to generate pressure. And in the back half, they play up some zone, some coverage, some man, depends on what they're in there. But there is an aggressive coordinator, and D'Amico Ryan's the head coach. And also, they have guys like Danielle Hunter off the edge, and they have, Will Anderson, the number 2 pick, last year off the edge as well. But their inside guys are former Bear Mario Edwards and another cast off from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they're not as formidable in terms of being able to get at them and run at them. So for the good news is for Bears offense, you face a similar type of defense, week in and week out in practice. So I mean, this is something where they can kind of might be something that where they can kind of match up here better against Texans defense because they're more athletic and slimmer, if not as powerful at the point of attack as Tennessee is. And then, obviously defensively, the back half, the secondary claims they're one of the better ones in the unit in the league, and they very well might be. They're gonna have a challenge here, right? We got Stephon Diggs, you got Nico Collins at over 100 yards last week, and then you also have a Tank Dell coming off an injury, and we talked about Joe Mixon adding a run feature there. So the one thing I do want to stress is in that second half, the Bears defense really bogged down on that run game of the Tennessee Titans, and I don't know what the adjustment was. Looked like they were shifting more towards on the outside, but. Well, hats off to Andrew Billings. He was the best defensive lineman on that Bears unit Sunday. And this is the guy that predominantly was brought in as a 2-down player. But I mean, his stats only show 2 tackles, and 2 quarterback hits. But it seemed like he was always in the backfield. He was always generating pressure. He was always come up there and helping stop the run. And obviously then we saw, Gervon Dexter step up as well. So we need that kind of effort from those 2 interior defensive linemen to be able to kind of bog down. They have a young center and Juice Scruggs, Texans do, and they also have some question marks on that right side of the offensive line. So that's, for me, is where you attack them, put some pressure on CJ Stroud, and then maybe have him rush his throws a little bit, and now you can have your secondary jump those and make plays. So it's not like they're going to get, in my opinion, going to get blown out. I just think that there's opportunities here where they can go out and make a play. My biggest concern it's that national primetime game, and obviously we'll see how offense picks up the pace because they're gonna have to score points. They're gonna have to score points this game in order to compete and beat them. So is Caleb and the offense gonna go ahead and pick up the pace and put some points on the board? If so, the Bears have a shot here.
Alyssa, what would the Bears have to do to take the sting out of a loss for you? Coming out of that saying, okay, we hate moral victories, but at least this happened.
Yeah, I'm going to steal Danny's answer. I want a competitive game. I don't want to see a blowout in prime time. Keep it close for as long as you can. And I think when you have this kind of defense that they'll be able to, I think my only concern in that regard is, this could turn into a game where the defense could be on the field a hell of a lot if the offense can't consistently move the ball, and they could get gassed later on. And that's when the Texans could start to pull away later on. So, I mean, I could see that happening. But I mean, on offense, I want to see them score a touchdown. Right? They didn't score one last week. Everyone did on defense, special teams. I felt like everyone but the offense. They did get a 2-point conversion. So, I mean, that was something. But I do want to see incremental improvement from the offense and from the offensive line especially. And I think that would take the sting out of it because, like I said earlier, I think we all kind of came into the season expecting this to be a loss. So as long as you can show improvement and you can keep this a close game for 3 quarters plus, I think I'd be satisfied. Not happy because never happy with the loss, but I feel I would come out of this satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of saying the same answer, just in different words, but I want to see some sustained drives on offense. I want to see them eat up some of the time of possession. We talked about how the Texans basically obliterated the Colts in time of possession, 40-20. So I want to see some sustained offensive drives, plus keep the defense off the field because if, like you said, Alyssa, if they're getting trotted out there every 5 minutes, you're opening up the possibility of somebody getting banged up on defense. And you don't want when you're going to rely on your defense, you don't want to suffer 2 or 3 injuries, and all of a sudden that becomes a liability. So sustained drives on offense, keep the defense off the field, and score some points. You want to see real tangible improvement on your offense from your number 1 overall pick. I hate losing too, but that would at least make me feel a little bit better. Danny.
A couple of things just to keep in mind. The Texans start 2 rookies in their secondary. The free safety, Bullock from USC, and then Lassiter, the corner. So you saw the Colts last week take advantage of them with 2 big plays down the football field. So not having Rome Odunze is going to hurt here, but maybe the speed of Tyler Scott or getting a DJ Moore free out there. They don't have a lockdown, shutdown corner. Stingley was a top pick, but he's not the caliber corner of a L'Jarius Sneed is. So maybe get a little bit more action for DJ Moore and for Keenan Allen there. So, they are susceptible in the secondary as well. So it's just now protecting. We talked about it earlier, right? Offensive line, protecting, giving Caleb sometimes, and giving him, sometimes they step up in the pocket and make those deep throws down the middle of the field. So, so there are options there, and there are chances there for them to make some plays.
And like Zach said in the chat, always have a chance when your defense is dominant. Let's hope that is the case. That's why you got to play the games. But that is going to wrap up this episode of Buffone 55. An important programming note, yes, we have moved to Tuesday night, but next week we are going back to Wednesday for just one more time. Some diva host says he's going to be out of town, and so we can't do it on Tuesday. So our next show will be next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And before the clock strikes 12, Buffone 55 will pop up wherever you get your audio podcast, as will this one, obviously tonight. It'll be on YouTube. I hope you've subscribed on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your audio podcast. You can watch us on any platform. Watch us on your Nintendo GameCube if you really want to. But Alyssa, what are you working on over there at the USA Wires and Bears Wire?
Yeah, as always, we at Bears Wire, we're going to be getting you ready for Sunday's game against the Texans with all the latest news, analysis, and game preview content leading right up to kickoff on Sunday night. We'll have plenty of post-game content as well, so be sure to check us out.
And Danny, the scouting season's never over. Which college football game are you interested in scouting this week?
Well, this week I'm going to be watching Alabama versus Wisconsin, number 4 Alabama, and one of the reasons why I'm watching Alabama, and one of the players I'm going to be highlighting in Shimon's Spotlight later on this week on my YouTube page is Parker Brailsford. I had a feeling the guys or the fans are going to want some interior offensive lineman, a center, a guard, something like that, because that's been a topic this past week. So Brailsford is a 6'2", 290. He transferred actually to Alabama this season following head coach DeBoer from University of Washington to Tuscaloosa. Second team All Pac-12 last year. His first season as a starter, started all 15 games, 13 at center, 2 at right guard. This is an athletic move blocker, engages quickly post-snap. He's athletic. He's able to chip and release at second level. Sometimes even gets to that third level defender. Can flip his hips and seal off that A-gap penetration. This is a guy that will keep his feet running on contact and his engine never stops. He's always looking to finish off his blocks. Jumps out of his stance and can pull out and can lead. Again, we're looking for athletic offensive linemen. At least this scheme is looking for athletic offensive linemen that can get out in front, get to that second level defender, be able to pin, seal, and give the running back some room, some leeway there to go ahead and run and get out there. So this is a kid I'm looking at in terms of a potential center, next season or for the Bears. So Parker Brailsford from Alabama, transferred from Washington, is a guy that I'm looking at this week.
Yeah, center is going to be a big topic of discussion with Bears fans, not just this year, but in the coming years. And if you like all of those breakdowns from Danny, we will keep closing the show by getting these mini scouting reports that you're posting on the Barroom's YouTube channel under the name Shimon Spotlight. So that's going to be great that we're going to be able to feature that, not just on this show, but it'll be on our YouTube channel as well. And like you said, always say, Danny, scouting season, that ain't ever over. It's always
never ends.
It just rolled right over to 2025. But this show does end, so we're going to wrap it up right now. We appreciate everyone tuning in, whether it's your first time, 55th time, the audio version, video version. We appreciate each and every one of you. Wouldn't have been doing this for 8 years if we didn't have such a great community in the chat room and just at the Barroom Network in general. So we thank you as always. But for Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon, I'm John Buffone. We'll see you next week.